welcome to the stream. My name is Lee. Um, I am not feeling so good, but we're gonna stream today anyway. I also have something on the stove, so what we're gonna do is I'm going to, in a few minutes, I'm gonna start it up, because there's gonna be a premiere ad break, so what we're gonna do, it's gonna be fun, we're playing with fire here, literally. Um, but we're having a good time. Hi, welcome to the stream, my name is Lee. And today is Thursday, and I said I was going to do Warhammer 40k today, so we're going to do Warhammer 40k today. But, you might ask, wheel. Blech. What was I going to say? I'm going to do, I don't know, I'm going to go, I'm trying to piece together for a game on this August, because we haven't been doing one in a while, and I feel like we need one. So what we're going to, hi, do, wow, I haven't seen you in ages, welcome on in. Yeah, I'm gonna pop this open a little. Yeah, I'm still adjusting the camera. I'm gonna have to duck off in 2 minutes, but um, yeah, work's rough. I had to take an extra shift this morning, and bleh. So yeah, I was gonna do Warhammer. Um, 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 um. Let's see. Um, we're gonna do Warhammer 40k. Let me open up a Word document. Is what we're gonna do. I got LibreOffice because, so I'm keeping an eye on, down the, no, not that one, not that one, not that one, I'm gonna see if I can find, if I can't find it, I will have to open, the right files, and, then I will have to duck, out, because I'm gonna open this up so you guys can see it, that one, and then, come on, there we go. Let me adjust that. Okay. Cool. Then just up, right? Should yeah, there we go. Okay, now we have to do the adjustment. Why is it always adjust? Okay, there we go. Oh, yeah. No worries. Hang on a sec. I have to catch. Speaking of cooking, I have a thing that's on the stove. I gotta go and take that off. Give me a sec. On that, in the meantime, look at how cute. Nope, not that one. That one. Look at how cute Addie is. She's a good girl. Um, Alright, that was perfect timing with me getting back. Voila. Let me... Perfect timing getting back. Hi. Cheers. I have actual tea. Mm. But... I was very silly. So I made mac and cheese. And I thought I could time the cooking of the pasta for the first ad break. And then... But yes. I hadn't realized the cookbook was you. For some reason I thought it was B. But I guess you're very similar because you were Beholder. Honestly, it looks delicious though. But yeah. Um. Yeah. Ooh. All right. So it was a joint effort. That's fun. I know I got the official. Let's see. So I'm gonna again. In half a second. Um. Is it? I know I'm supposed to be doing 40K, but since it's my own stream, I can. Place product. Yes, the cookbook. Oh yeah, I never actually. I just put a link to it. Which yes. Um. Oh, that is a. Um. Right. There's two links there. There's the one to the cookbook, and then there's the one to the Forgotten Realm wiki, and then there's the one to the music part. Yes. Um. Yes. Um. Yay. Um. Looks good. How much? Okay, about enough. All right. I might have to get a copy at some point, but yes. That goes to the Chosen Feast. That is actually really cool to have like a book and a songbook at the same time. But yes, here I'll since I'm here anyway, let's do it. I don't know if there's anyone else in chat, but ooh, that is really cool. But yeah, the the cookbook is. I had the official D&D one, and then I had to pack everything up, and I didn't actually have to move, but I thought I was gonna have to move, so I packed up all my books, and stored a bunch of them, and that was one of the one I packed up and stored. But I might just, cause I don't cook a whole lot. I know how. I could probably cook actual food, but it's just a lot of um effort sometimes when I have work. Cause work. Um, but plus cooking's less of a thing when you have no one to share it with. Um, really? Huh. I guess that makes sense. They bother, if you want to do a cookbook and lore, you can either make good recipes. Oh, true, because you have to test all the recipes. And so if you have to test all the recipes, you have to make a batch, and then a second batch, and then see if the second batch is any good. And then try it a third way and see if that batch is any good. And then you have 3 batch worth, and they're all pretty good. And someone's gotta, sharing. Ugh. Mm. That's what Maria does, I think. Is she makes like 10 times as much or something as we need and just gives it. That's the only time she ever cooks. Which is nice because she shares with me too. I was. I wonder if. Um. That's fair. That's fair. I guess it depends on if you count yourself as testing when you test the recipes. Um. Like, are you? Here's a question for you. Are you adapting, like pulling a lot of lore research and then finding a recipe that's um picking a recipe you have and then adding the lore research as flavor text? Or are you going to the lore, finding something, and then developing the recipe from the lore? Because that's, I feel like, true. The dish. Oh, so you go and find them, dig through the lore, and then you have to piece them together, what they might have used. Um, which makes sense. Although, if they say, oh well, there's a thick, hearty stew, um, of deer meat and carrots that particular lord was known for serving, well, you can probably find a recipe for venison stew with carrots and then, parse the difference, I would imagine. Because we have similar ingredients for the most part. That's fair. You can do what you will with it. But although, yeah, I guess a stew with venison and carrots you could do whatever with. Like, if you know how to cook, you can kind of, like, there's a little bit of give and take, depending on how you want to do it. I know my dad, when we were little, used to make leek and potato soup. It's one of my favorites. And he'd add shrimp and chili powder and call it shrimp and hot root soup, which was a recipe from Redwall. That and the oat squares. Um, that's fair. Um, we also did oat squares, but that was just oatmeal raisin cookie in bar form. But there's not much description of what oat squares are, so other than that, yeah, I know some authors put recipes in their books, but I didn't know any of the Forgotten Realms authors did. Although, um, mmm, leek and tater soup. Mmm, leek stuffed bread. Now, leek and potato soup, I know. My mother used to make it. It's absolutely delicious. She used the Victory Garden cookbooks version. I've um, never tried leek stuffed bread. I'm sure it's good. Um, leek stuffed bread. How would you even, like, do you put the leeks into the dough for the bread, or do you make like a leek puree and like, is it like a leek puree and the and you bake it in like a, I don't know, jelly donut or something, but like with bread, and you like like a bun. Leeks, cheese, herbs, and the bread is made a bit of powdered ginger. Ooh, yum! Is it like a quick bread, or is it like a yeasty risen bread? Well, I guess buns are. I'm my bread baking skills are rusty. Now we got us very off topic, but also cook. Um, um, that's fair. Yeah. Wonder. It's probably like sourdough, right? Mm, it's probably something like, I would imagine, if doors are in the caverns. It's kind of like, well, you know how with lambic, which is kind of beer, you use the yeast that's in the wild yeast, like sourdough. I wonder if it's like that, where you're just kind of, I would imagine, right? Because, well, it's a question if the dwarves have discovered the nature of yeast and started cultivating it, um, the way modern brewers and bakers have. Um, ooh, all sound very tasty. Mm. Okay, never sweets. Okay, that makes sense. The interesting question, though. I thought, do dwarves? All right. I wonder if it's like a cat. You know how cats literally cannot taste sweetness, and so, um, if dwarves culturally just aren't into sweet, then maybe it might be like a taste bud thing. Because they are only different species. They might just like have. Unless they're notorious for it. Of course, my Forgotten Realms lore is not my strong suit, as you well know. Um, huh. Interesting. I wonder if it's well. That's a whole philosophical question of like. There's human gene variants that make cilantro taste like soap. So the way you taste it is like determined by genetics and how your taste buds process. It's like a gene that makes your taste buds process molecules. I wonder if it's like a tongue brain wiring thing. Yeah, something like that, where the brain it doesn't have the same pull than it does for humans who evolved to latch onto sweet simply because of evolutionarily calories. Sweet stuff has a lot of calories, and in the very early stage of evolution, you need all the calories you can get. Ooh, interesting. Because chocolate, dark chocolate is not very sweet. Chocolate in and of itself isn't very sweet. It has a nice flavor, but and you can do stuff like mole where it's a savory dish mixed with chocolate. So, hmm, interesting. Yeah, like the good dark stuff isn't sweet at all, really. With adding sugar, it works really well with sugar, as I'm proving with a bag of M&Ms. Um, but well, chocolate doesn't actually particularly sweet. Ooh, interesting. So they have two versions. They have the sweet version, and they have the traditional style version and the sweet style version, and you can get both. Interesting. Well, I bet they're both pretty good though. Honestly, like a savory pastry with chocolates could actually be pretty good. It's just it depends on your mood. Interesting, huh? We are learning a lot. Uh, Talith. Okay, I interesting. I never actually. I looked at some of them. Um, um. All right. Sausage, cheese, and herbs. So it's like or sounds like hors d'oeuvres or something hors d'oeuvre. Um, a smaller human palm. So that's a like a decent sized cracker. And then thinly sliced sausage and spices glued together with mash. Ooh. Oh, so you bake them. So it's not a like an hors d'oeuvre. It's um huh. Um, interesting. So it's kind of like a it sounds vaguely hors d'oeuvre, but if they're baked then it's more like um it's like a toasted almost. So you kind of like you would pre-bake it and then um add your sausage and cheese and then give it another 20 minutes, not 20 minutes, but like another 5 minutes in the oven to like properly melt with um um Huh. Interesting. Um. Yeah. So it's like pre-bit. It was baked, and then you would. Um. No. Yeah. It seems more like. It sounds kind of like that, but it's more like it seems like very thin, some sort of very thin sliced sausage, and then the crackers like it's like crouton almost. I would bet that you would like bake it the first time, and then you put all that, and then you'd bake it a second time, so the bottom might, which is already baked, got like really crispy, and the top kind of baked into it almost. Um. Oh, and yet Ed Greenwood. Okay, Ed Greenwood is really cool, by the way. Um. That's I that's a little extreme, but yes, I see what you mean. Hors d'oeuvre stuff is like that's not a thing you do in a recipe. That doesn't count as a recipe. That counts as a suggestion for hors d'oeuvres, which can be helpful, but um that's not really what um 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 that's not really a recipe. That's I don't know what you'd call that, but that definitely isn't a recipe. Huh. But yeah, if that sounds kind of if you put it in the Discord, I can share the link on the Twitch chat because honestly, that sounds weirdly yummy. Sorry, we got distracted. Anyone else who's watching, hi. We got distracted, which is very cool. Um, apparently, Do I Do here is a freaking cookbook author. And he'd mentioned that in the wiki. It's like, I made a cookbook, and I was like, oh, cool. Or not the wiki, the Discord. Mentioned the Discord. I made the cookbook, and I was like, oh, cool. I have not. I wonder if there's a 40k. Could you do a 40k cookbook? That's the question. Uh, I mean, yeah. The question is whether or not they probably have ingredients. Um, well, that's the other thing is the cookbook is if like sure, um, for 40k, yeah, that's a oh, that is quite a um interesting one. I would imagine the thing about 40k is that because it's in the future, they probably eat a lot of the same. Well, no, because new foods are getting invented all the time. Um, and foods come and go. Like if you look at cookbooks from the 50s, they're making the Jello stuff, and some of it's actually okay, and some of it is just like why did you invent this? But um, some of it actually sounds like um, what is Dylan would made an orange salad, which was made with Jello and Cool Whip, and I'm like that's not a salad, but and mandarin oranges and sherbet, and it sounded delicious. Honestly, like that's not a salad, but that sounds tasty. But that's the kind of thing is that, you know, okay. If I share it on the Discord, oh, boop. Oh, I see. Ooh. All right, let me bring this up. Uh, yep. So this should let me do that, and then it should be able to do this, and then yep, and then you can see it. Very kind. Ooh, little 204 of the cookbook. Toppings around favoring, going clockwise. Snail and garlic, egg and cheese. Ooh. Yeah, interesting. Those do look delicious, though. Yeah. So, let's see. Oyster and tapenade. From the Sword Coast, from... And, oh, you even have, like, a map. Mm. Do look delicious, though. Let's see. You have snail and garlic, spice sausage and sage, oyster and tapenade, oyster cheese and pepper. And then the one with tomatoes. Sardine and parsley. Huh. Well, the sardine and parsley is that one. The other one was, oyster cheese and pepper. Huh. They all look delicious. Komar. Wait. From Komar. I see. Okay. Let's see. Oh. Snail and garlic and... Oh, I see. Snail and garlic and cheese, egg, and tomato is the next one. Okay. Oh, cheese, egg, and tomato. That one looks good. Yum. Ooh, okay. That sounds really cool. We got way off topic. I don't mind though, because honestly, it's fun to hang out with friends and chat and talk cookie recipes and stuff. And honestly, I that's a thought. I wonder. I'm gonna do something because I promised I'd make up 40k lore. I don't know how familiar you are with 40k. Warhammer, as in Warhammer 40k. Um, now I'm getting. This is making me hungry, and I just had a bowl of Huh. Interesting. So they're molded. Also, it's like a mold, as opposed to. Huh. Interesting. Um. Closest I ever came to making that was if bread goes like a little bit moldy and you cut the mold off, you have to like. I mean, probably shouldn't be eating it at all, but at least there's still spores in the rest of the bread. So my theory is if you cook it, you have to have like toast or something so that it's cooked again. And so what I would often do is make croutons. Um, like um. Ooh, okay. More pictures, but yes. So, but yeah, croutons are. Oh, huh. A little um. Ooh. Potato, tapenade, and herbs. Sam mashed sardine and parsley. See, I don't like olives. I know that's a silly, no, not that one. I know it's silly to say, but I don't really like olives. However, um, uh, um, don't necessarily like olives, but tapenades are okay. Tapenades are all right. I can do tapenade. I don't know why. It might be because um, ooh, spiced carrot mash. That's interesting. Huh. Oh, the egg, cheese, and tomato. Yeah, the egg, cheese, and tomato one. But, I've never heard of mashed carrots. Well, I bet it's tasty. But yeah, tapenade is, like, I wouldn't seek it out ever specifically, but be like, I weirdly, it's sorry, one of those things where it's just weirdly good. You're making me hungry. Just probably not a good idea. All right, we got very, very distracted. Yeah, exactly. Well, topping out on pita usually is how I usually have it. Because if you get like as an appetizer and it's served and you add a little bit and you're like you begrudgingly agree that it's okay. Um, but at least for me, um, yes. Um, ooh, olive crust hurts. But yeah, was I gonna? I was going to. Um, um, but yeah, we got an entire first um setup. Um, uh-huh. Okay. Yes, we got very, very, very distracted. Um, that's okay though. Cookbooks are fun. And then they're gonna start an ad break, and dang it. Okay, when we get back from the ad break, I'm going to actual 40k because I promised I would. Not that I mind diversions all that much, but I do gotta at least try to do 40k stuff because I said we're gonna do a 40k stream. Hang on, I have the exact. Okay, hey, I'm gonna spell it. Ha! It takes yeah, it took me 3 tries to spell this right. Um, spelling, yes, because we were doing all these things. Bloosh. All right, they're gonna run an ad break, which is all right. Let me go up from all of the um these. Um, these are my the characters. Some of them are portrayed on stream. Some of them are not. I do need people to portray some of them on stream for our games if anyone wants to. They're basically um I just made the characters on stream and then uh, assigned them to players in the game, and then most of the players had to leave, so most of the characters are just off screen half the time. But yeah. Oh, also, um, anyone in chat, if you have a good idea, oh well, there's gonna be an ad break, but let me put Addie back up because she's my go-go girl, and let me stretch at least, and you should all do the same. Oof. Oop. All right. Ooh. Okay. Hang on. All right. We should have stream back. Yes, yes. We're back. Hang on. Let me go to here and pop. Welcome back. We got very distracted. But another question: if you have any suggestions, so you're making me hungry enough to have Twizzlers, for planet names. So I only have two. Um, write them. Um, right. We had right. It wasn't Power Numbers. It was we were using not that one. We were doing lore for some other planet, and we were using this as an import. And hang on, Beantopia. Oh wow, right, that one. That one was right, alright. We're taking I went to Sarapoda. This is what happens when you go 40k. You pick one of the planets and you start saying, okay, let's dive into the lore more. And then you end up with dozens of these. Like Aplasia, well, the only reason we did Plasia because it showed up on stream. I literally had sat here on this very channel. In fact, it's on YouTube. And had players take 40k characters and go to Aplasia. Hi! Now come on in. Friend, we got distracted by, Duadu, who's, also in chat, I believe, made a Forgotten Realms cookbook. And so, that distracted the first half of the stream, so we didn't actually get anything done other than talk about cooking techniques, which, to be fair, is kind of fun. And I think I put a link to the cookbook in chat. And I think now, when you add in, you can come and see the chat links. But yeah, we got talking about cooking techniques and Forgotten Realms, and I mean, that's fair. Also, working with Ed Greenwood on how to make little, tasty tidbit bites is actually sounds really fun, because I have seen him on stream, and he is pretty cool. Let's see. But yeah, we got whole pages of lore on random planets that you haven't even used yet, and it's just fun, and that's why we do it. But Owens Pride. They also did go to Raoul, and they had to go to one of the islands, because it was biological warfare, and yeah, right here, okay, right, fair enough. Oh, Farina's parents came from there. Immediate. That is not how you spell immediate. Nope, that is not how you spell that either. Hang on. Immediate. There we go. Immediate family. Yeesh. Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. Yeah, that's the thing, is you... Well, yeah, I guess, you make yourself hungry. My workout regimen is, I bust my ass at work all the time, and I'm healthy enough that I'm not too worried about putting on weight, and young, and do hard physical labor, so I'm just gotta make sure I get enough protein and veggies and call it even for everything else, which not exactly the healthiest, but keeps me balanced. But yeesh. Yes. A feral world. Okay, so Era here is a feral world. Fast growing trees. I wonder if it was a feral, particularly sought after for musical instruments. Rocking chairs that are cunningly designed to shape sorry, the natural composition with the pressure and rocking motion make a soothing sound. Ah, yeah, that is true. You can you can't cure depression with a workout the way it doesn't, but it does weirdly help. The endorphins do help. Um, it is I've been there too. Let me in my youth, but the endorphins do help. Hard physical exercise does wonders for the brain. Natural composition, pressure and rocking motion, soothing sound. Tithe in the northern forest are exclusively wood. They tithe wood to the Imperium. Brought to the only city on the planet, the tribes in other areas are left to their own devices, except for troop levies every few years. Capital is called Jadid Rabat, which is Jadid is an Arabic word meaning new, and Rabat is a city that is in. I mean, listen. Sorry. Yeah, listen, that works. All right. Inner district built directly along the walls and interconnected with the spaceport, where wealthy off-worlders and high bureaucrats live, including the Stevenson family. Right, Farina was of the Stevenson family. She was. They were a uh, navigator family, actually. Actually, um, um, which houses lower-level imperial functionaries and natives who've moved there to seek their fortune. The outer district is mostly sprawled between the spaceport and the lumber mills along the river Amir's Ebb, named for the long-forgotten human ship captain who had landed on the planet at some point not long after the Great Crusade. That flows from the northern peaks of the Marrakesh Mountains to the coastal swamps to the far south near the equatorial coastline. Um, yeah, it's basically when you because things are in the far future, you can say, well, this one everything's named after Morocco, and you're like, okay, you can just kind of go with thematic vibes, and just pick names from history because they have a shared history. And you say, well, they use this particular cattle from Earth and have bred it, and you're like, okay, well, yeah, you can kind of add layers of Earth cultural history into your world building because it existed in the distant past. Um, it's kind of fun. Like Tanith is just Scotland in space. They even play the I think Bryn Milo I think it was even plays the bagpipes, which is kind of fun. But um crew members. Okay, we should crew members. I think that's two words. Um, who came in escape pods frantically jettisoned to real space after the ship was destroyed by a warp explosion. Their astropath died in a local mosquito-borne illness, and the survivors set up camp there and spread across the northern continent over multiple generations. The last ruins of the ship brought them are preserved as temple to the God Emperor. The current spaceport was built by a rogue trader over millennia later, who was assassinated 100 years after its completion. Ooh, we had some fun lore for this one. I guess we're doing, oh, it kind of is. Okay, so Tanith, I don't know if you've ever, a little bit of a side tangent, but it actually is related. So, Dan Abnett, who my first fish was named after, um, fun fact, he died because I was giving him distilled water because I thought that would be best because there was no contaminants. I did not know any better. Um, but yes, I named all of my fish subsequently were named after characters from this novel series. Um, Larkin was the stupidest one, and you know what? He was the one who jumped out of his tank, and you know what? Given Larkin, I think maybe that kind of makes sense. Lane Larkin. So basically, the Tanith First and Only, there was this planet. It was known for its moving forests, kinda. And they had a lore about the guardian spirits that were there, and Ibram Gaunt Commissar came to Tanith, and they were gonna raise all of these troops. They were gonna put together all these regiments of troops, and there was a big. So then they moved the first up onto a ship, in orbit, and they were gonna move the rest, and then the planet was destroyed by some enemy of the Imperium, and they became the Tanith first and only because there is no more Tanith to go back to. Um, and so the Tanith, but there's like McVenner, like the names are they all start with MK. A lot of the names are MK, McVenner, McCall, and they have but basically, Kilts, and I think at some point they have Bryn Milo who plays the pipes, and it's heavily influenced by Scottish culture, and he's really cool. And the guys from Taniths are like the best snipers. Um, that's like their stealth core. That's their specialty is stealth reconnaissance and snipers, and they're just awesome. And Larkin was one of the best. Oh, and then there was Try Again Bragg, so who was the best. He basically he couldn't aim really well, but the requirement was that you hit a certain target to join up, right? So he was like, well, if I use I think a heavy, like, tripod mounted machine gun, I could do it. And since was such a big guy, he could just lift one, even though it's normally tripod mounted. And he hit it, and they were like, yeah, okay. But that is why Try Again Bragg. He and Larkin were like this, and then Larkin was killed by Lai Yaku, who joined the regiment later as they started accruing, as they hopped from planet to planet. They started dying, and they started accruing other members from different shattered remnants of different groups that joined up in this unit, the Tanith First and Only, and they yeah. Mm. And they actually snagged a couple extra commissars too, and they had one psyker who got taken in, and it's it was I haven't read I only read the first like 5, but Dan Abnett is brilliant. It's harder to get now. I think they might be out of print. So, oh right, I named one of my fish Larkin because I'd named all my fish, and he jumped out of his tank multiple times. The first time, luckily, I was home. I managed to get him out. The second time he jumped out, I was in the middle of a D&D game, and he jumped out. I was like, no, 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 no. The third time I jumped, though, I was at work, and I came back, and I still feel bad because I feel like I didn't quite, check on him as soon as I got back. And I feel like maybe if I had, he might have still been gasping, and I could get him back in, but yeah, but he jumped right out of the tank. And so then, um, um, Bragg, I think, did the same thing, but Maria was caring for him at the time. I had moved him to a bowl so that she could feed him, and um, I don't know. But yeah, he was. But I had um um my last and um well, no, I was doing fine until um um millennia. Um, but yeah, I think real space is that's just gonna be Marrakesh. There we go. Apparently, yeah, Marrakesh Mountain, since it's named after the one the in Morocco. Yeah, and then Adeptus distance. All right. Frantically jettisons to real space after their ship was destroyed by a warp explosion. Astropath died to a local mosquito-borne illness. Survivors, right? So since their astropath was killed, they couldn't contact Earth at all. The Terra or any of the Imperium, they were stuck. So they the kind of survivors over the generations were just lived and were born and died, and um And then the Rogue Trader built the current spaceport, leaving the governorship of the planet to a distant cousin who made little effort to reconnect to the tribes who lived any distance outside the city, leaving that to a convent of Adeptus Sororitas who spread the word of the God Emperor. They still have their main convent on the coast further to the south. The current Imperial commander is a descendant of said D. Okay, D. That's the fun thing is like, okay, how do I make it close enough that, yep, that's the one, that I can get this one to work. But yes, now we have, instead of that, we have maybe Morocco in space, although it's not a desert. Well, the Marrakesh Mountains, I don't know, I don't have anything about the climate. Okay, so, let's see. Era here, planet where Farina's. Okay, so Farina is our navigator. She basically runs the... Navigators are fun. I actually got to... One of the few times I got to play 40k, I got to play a navigator. I did play her as from a Renthok family. Because I love Renthok, and that was going to be my debut novel. It was going to be a Warhammer 40k expanding universe novel about Renthok. Well, no, not about Renthok. About the troops from Renthok. I think they did, in the original draft, they went back to Renthok first to get more troops, and then to replace the casualties. And then, because that's, yeah, they went back to Renthok to get more troops to replace the casualties, and then they were back out to the war fronts. And, because the Renthok girls did go home more often than most. But yeah, because there's word in the lore. So, Star goes. When you read the source book lore for the Imperial Guard, you say most units are either all men or all women. If you read, if you find fluff pieces, they're almost always all men, or they're in like the novels, or like the Tanith version only I think ended up integrated just because they took in a lot of the Vervenhive irregular militia and then turned them into Imperial Guards that included a bunch of women, so they kind of integrated that way. I'm not buying viewers, by the way. You're wasting your time, but you can say anyway. I always tell the people who pop into chat to say that, because I figure there's a chance that they're paid chills, and the paid chills, I don't mind them staying here, just as long as they know I'm a waste of time. But what was I going to say? Oh yes, yeah. So I had Renthok. I was like, okay. I looked at that lore and was like, there needs to be someone that should do this. So I spent years putting together, and I still have like lists of. I was traveling around the country at the time. That's when I first encountered the Ibram Gaunt, the Gaunt's Ghost series by Dan Abnett, which I reference with Space Scotsman. And I, what was I gonna say? I was like, all right, let's, and I was looking up, I was learning so much about Warhammer 40k lore, and I was like, all right, let's do this. So, because I was reading the fluff, the intros to the guard books on the wiki or whatever. 40k wiki is actually pretty good. I won't lie. But although on the Warhammer 40k wiki, now you as a fellow wiki person will appreciate this. They had this whole page about this planet that sounded really cool on the Warhammer 40k wiki. I know we're doing another tangent here, but you will appreciate this because you also do wikis. I thought it was really cool, so I went and I used it in a campaign. Yes, I know it's a tangent from a tangent, but I used the Warhammer 40k wiki. I used that plan in a campaign, and I wanted to check something. So I was like, okay, well, where's it from? Let's see if, because I had a bunch of the source books because I got them in a humble bundle. So it's like, all right, let's from Cubicle 7, who is the new. Basically, they bought out Fantasy Flight Games rights to the Warhammer 40k stuff, and they produced the new Wrath and Glory RPG, which is all D6s, but they republish a bunch of the old source books, as is. They just reprint them. They're just reprints. with the new publishing company logo because it's a cash cow and people still want to buy them. So fair. And they had a deal bundle, so I got a bunch of them. And but I was like, okay, so I'm gonna look this up. So I went and got the source book. It's not there. They had a cited page number. They put a citation in the bottom of the wiki page about this planet, citing a source book and a page number. Okay, cool. I go to the source book. It ends 10 pages earlier. Like, there's no. Okay. So I asked my friend who has a physical copy. Also ends. His is like 6 pages longer because they have like a bunch of ads in the back from when they printed it for other Warhammer, Black Library products or whatever. Fine. Or Games Workshop stuff. Still not even close to the pages. So it's just like Ghost Wiki. I guess it's someone's headcanon that got put in, because I know for the Greyhawk Wiki, a lot of Anna's headcanons got accidentally put as pages, and I remember I was looking into some of that when I was first doing it, and I think it got taken down. But like, it's just like they cited a source book and everything, and then you look at the source book and it's 10 pages later, and you're like, oh. But I knew to look for the citations because I did wiki stuff. Anyway, sorry about that tangent. I am um that is a possibility too. That they put the wrong book name. I didn't think of that. Um Maybe on the reprints, but it was like 10 pages in, and also even if there had been, we looked through the whole book, it wasn't in there. You know what I mean? As both of us could look and see if this was in the book. Or that's true. Or it's um they like transposed the numbers too. Or mistyped or transposed the numbers. But it was just it's a really fun planet, and I kind of took the bare bones of it and then ran with it. Um Interesting. Um Good to know. I didn't even think that. Oh yeah, they messed up the citation and it meant to be a different book. That is a thought. I'll have to poke around some more because I have other books. Because it's I kind of took it as a vague idea and ran with it, and so I put a lot of stuff that wasn't even remotely lore. I just kind of took the basic shape of it and like glommed it for lore. Glommed it for the basic idea, and then just ran with the lore in a completely different direction. It was a lot of fun. Uh the players the fortune in that game, one of the players, there was very few players to begin with, and two of them started having to work on Sundays, so oh wow, okay, yeah, that would be extremely confusing for editor for something like that. Dang, okay. um yeah, that is wow. um yeah, that definitely is um for sure. All right, I okay. um all right. I also um 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 yep. But yes, what was I gonna say? Oh yes, so yeah. Um bleh. Yes, I'm doing the same thing with not indexing, but Ivid the Undying, which is an interesting one because TSR was going under, and they had commissioned Carl Sargent to write this lore book, and they'd gone through the edits and they'd put together all of this stuff. There are a few things that is definitely should have been changed in final edit if I read it. I'm like, I know this is like, hang on, but they hired Carl Sargent. He wrote the whole thing. They had the prints already, and they were going to go to print, but they were also struggling, financially, and got bought out by Wizards of the Coast. So they had this entirely put together lore book, including commissioned maps that they hadn't done the final layout for, but they had the maps that were made for the book. And finally, I guess someone like a fan or someone had worked there was like, I could throw together some formatting and we could release it as a PDF. And Wizards of the Coast looked at it and was like, yeah, okay, sure, because they had other they didn't feel like they didn't want to publish it, so they just kind of put it out as a PDF. Um, Possibly, and I think they might have at some point. But what they did is, yeah, they did release it. It was PDF only. There are no printed copies. I mean, I think someone might have put like, what's the word? Because they do like reprints of certain things. But yeah, there might be some like print on demand versions, but it's basically just a source book that and they had cover art and everything, which is gorgeous. But yeah, the it was a released by Wizards as, I guess, a freebie. They might have started charging it for it initially, but at this point, it's just they kept it as a freebie. Probably as community goodwill. I would imagine it'd be like, yeah, you can put it up as a freebie to kind of tease people into it. Because they, there was no cost, because they'd already had all the files and it wasn't being printed. So it's PDF only, and it's on the cusp of whether it was official, but it definitely counts as official lore. And but it didn't get put, none of the information in it got put into the wiki. And I was looking for info on freaking Unsee or something, and they were like, oh, it's an Ivid, and no one had known that. There's gonna be an ad break, aren't there? Yeah. But basically, um, yeah, so I spent over a year doing that because I only do the editing on Wednesday, one day a week. We're doing on stream for an hour or two. All right, yes, we're about to have an ad break. I have noticed that, and we barely, all right, blah. Um, yeah, their Wizard of the Coast is interesting. There's some, now that they've put Greyhawk officially on DM's Guild, there's some interesting takes on, well, what about the, barely reskinned stuff that Carlos, um, what's his face does? Like, should that be allowed to be exist, or is that copyright infringement now that they're actually allowing it to be sold on DM's Guild? And should he just unreskin it and sell it there? But, eh. All right, ad break. Ooh. All right, let me do a thing. Blah. Let me. Annie's cutie pie. Enjoy her face. Boom. Okay. All right. I mixed. How bad? How bad did I get? Oh, not terrible. Okay. Give me a second. I'm back. I'm back. Let me just. Whoa. Not die by slipping on paper. That would be bad. Pop. I'm back. Okay. Um. Unreskin. I agree. But there are a lot of people who don't want to pay DMs Guild fees, and I'm like, okay, it's one thing to skate around copyright if they're not letting you publish anyway. So, but if they are, it's probably the more ethical thing to do to sell it through DMs Guild now they're allowing Greyhawk stuff. But you know, um, that's a interesting question about ethics and copyright and all that jazz. But what was I gonna say? Yes. Yeah, current Imperial Governor. Okay. The Adeptus Sororitas here. That's an interesting one. Alright, now I have. So. I wonder if they're Sister Hospitaliers. I wonder if. Let me see. Um. Um. Yeah. Um. Um. Yes. Um. Yes. Um. 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 Yeah. Um. Okay. We could call them Green Crescent. That actually makes a lot of sense. Maybe. Um. Yeah. Um. Yeah. They're. Yeah. That makes sense. Exactly. The thing is, yeah, that's the thing. Is if WotC is not letting people publish, then it's like, okay, well, they've basically relinquished claim to great. You know what I mean? It's sort of. But if they're actually actively selling Greyhawk, then you have to go through them because that's how that works. There's some interesting takes on if stuff's in print versus not, and um 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 but yeah. All right, but yes, that is that's the thought. But yeah, the okay, we are. I was going to at least try to do a little bit of 40. Well, we did edit some error here, so that's cool. But yeah, um, but definitely a Sisters Hospitalier. I'm going with. Okay, um, the okay, the Adeptus. We should do that. Because they have an entire convent of sisters. Um, the Sisters Hospitalier, the Adeptus Sororitas. Sororitas. Adeptus Sororitas, on the planet, convent on the planet, is a branch of the sisters Hos. The thing about that is that the thing about yes, that they are the sisters hospitalier, and the um um what was I gonna say let's see. And they part of their spreading the word of God effort was vaccines. That's a thought actually. And a big part of okay.
the God Emperor. Yes. Um, I remember when I was running a 40k one shot, and um or no, I was running a Rogue Trader game, and yeah, a couple of my players, not the one I do on stream, but a different in a personal game, and one of my players was completely he came from a Pharaoh world they just discovered. Ooh, yum. That actually sounds delicious. You can't really get quail eggs, or at least I don't know of anywhere in locally I could get quail eggs. Um, which is a shame. We can. We do have a UK specialty shop, so we can get stuff like Iron Brew and timeout bars, but not quail eggs, unfortunately. And Barry's tea, which is the important one, obviously. It's an Irish tea room, and they are lovely. But I just was reminded because quail eggs, and I know you're in the islands, um, on the British Isles, which I know are because I remember I was talking to Ewan, I believe it was, and I said, "Oh, over in England." Oh, right. I am thinking of someone else. I associate you with frickin' what's his name, who was really cool, and I haven't seen streaming in ages. But you were always on his stream, and that's why I associate you with Brit, because he was in Northern Ireland, if I recall correctly. And he was in Northern Ireland, and um, Gerald, yes, he was really cool. I haven't seen him stream in ages. If I ever saw him on, I'd pop in a heartbeat because he was cool. But he was on in the northern part of Ireland, if I believe, and so I was associated, which is a shame. I mean, if people stop streaming for whatever reason, and you know, you got to do what's best for you, but it's a shame. Oh, well, at least he's doing all right. Um, oh, that's lovely. Yeah. But yeah, his streams were always really cool, and um, but Hiberno Way, that was how he went. But yes, I associate you with him because in my head, so I assume you're in the islands, even though you're here in the states. Same time zone even, which is the whole thing. But yes, Sister Hospitalier. All right. Um, vaccination drug. Um, um, uh, they worked with um a tech with three tech priests. Yeah. All right. Tech priests and major biologist about vaccine. Blah. Um. Yes. There we go. For the local um and their childhood vaccinations, um clean water initiatives, and what was I gonna do? Local tribes were Yeah. Um. Still can't get quail eggs though. But what's I gonna say? Oh yeah. So fun time. I would have told you to go follow Hiberno Away, but he's not streaming anymore. Sorry. But I have more lore for Eric here now. Not much more lore, mind you, but if this is the basically the part of a big part of the conversion process that so when um uh yeah when Warhammer basically Warhammer 40k, any planet that's discovered that has humans, in this case they were generation long descended from a crew of a stranded spaceship that never managed to get back to anywhere because they lost their astropath. Um, yeah, and 1,000 years later, the Rogue Trader showed up, and there was just a couple tribes. But um, in this case, they have to be brought into compliance with the Imperial Creed. You have to uh, confess belief in the God Emperor, or die by bolter fire, essentially. And they have, different groups. Some of them are brought into compliance more violently than others. And in this case, the Adeptus Sororitas seems to have done basically ministry by vaccination, and because because they came with saving people's lives, the transition was fairly painless. But also, the Imperial Creed allows for a lot of flexibility. There are certain, yes, there are brands of heresy that people will go to war over, but in various planets, far flung planets of the Imperium that don't have a high tech, that are barely any Imperial rule, the as long as you acknowledge the God Emperor is the highest authority over mankind ever, you can have other variants of exactly how, um, you know, the exact mythology of how is. Yeah, the Emperor of mankind is the Emperor, and he is the one true God of authority over all. And then anything else is kind of icing on the cake, as long as you're not worshiping the Chaos Gods. Um, as long as you don't live with any kind of particularly puritanical, within distance of any particularly puritanical um, bit of the ecclesiarchy, you can do. There's a lot of flexibility for how the locals perceive the God Emperor. And if the Adeptus Sororitas can, provide vaccines and say this is the work of the God Emperor, then yes, they absolutely probably would um, hold that, especially if they had the remains of the spaceship that brought them there. That was kind of a cultural artifact that they had still held, and you know, which is now a temple to Gunnerbur. But yeah, and then the Rogue Trader probably, let's see, how did a millennia later Rogue Trader lands. A millennia later, the people have descended. They have these myths about the ship from the sky, but they don't have a lot else. And it was an Imperial ship that landed in the first place. They're kind of primed for it, and then um, they probably had a theory of the Emperor had abandoned them, and then, haha, they come with the vaccines, and they come with, um, you know, a couple executions of people who don't believe, and suddenly, oh yeah, okay, now we all believe. But um, um, their astropath died, and they probably had um, they probably spiraled out from this central location, and then, um, as the knowledge broke down over the generations, um, yeah, but let's see, yeah, over a millennia later, 100 years after its completion. So he'd um, yeah. So yeah, there was a convent of Sororitas. He just kind of Procreator probably landed there, logged on, clutched onto whatever belief, and said, clearly saw the ruins ship and was like, okay, clearly they're imperial of some class, that it's close enough. And then they'd add to Sororitas, Interesting. So there's something to this. And now we have more Arrowhair lore, and also I need to prep myself for day job work. Unfortunately, but um, thank you all for coming. Do and other friends who popped in, and I think you were the only one in the chat, but I know Newton was popped in and was saying they are kicking around. Good friend who lives just yeah, well, Twitch doesn't pay the bills just yet. Um, although I might be on track if I continue the way I am. I might be on track to make 3 Twitch payouts in a year, which is more than I've had any year since I started streaming. So we'll see how that goes. If you want to subscribe to the definitely follow. You should definitely be following. But if you want to, also, if you guys all want to sub and donate 20 gift subs, we could start to build the momentum, and I could be a full time streamer. But probably not gonna happen within the next few years. But yeah, I gotta have day job. I gotta pay rent. It's this little lovely little room I'm filming in doesn't come cheap because it's in a nice neighborhood. So, blech. All right. But yeah, thank you all for coming. I appreciate you awfully much. The Discord, where you can get the link, the cookbook. That's why I knew about the cookbook, is because he published in Discord with hey, I just did this, and I was like, oh, cool. What else? Uh, hopefully I'm getting your pronouns right, by the way. Pretty sure I remember he, but I don't. Not 100% positive. Let's see. Discord. And then there's I think I have a Ko-Fi. Yeah, that's fair. I'm in that same boat of, more or less, but at least now because, well, but yes, there's that. Um, support because day jobs suck. I agree with that sentiment. And what else? We'll do another 40K. We'll actually do 40K stuff and not do cookbook reviews. Although book reviews are fun. And if I do get a copy, I might do a stream review of it. I'll ask you first, but that could be kind of fun, I think. As you guys know, I do a lot of, hey, I got this random cool thing vaguely related to tabletop RPG, like lore book stuff. Do you guys want to look at it on stream? And because that's how it, mostly because you back a bunch of Kickstarters, and then yeah, for sure. If I do, I'll tell you when I'm doing it. But yeah, you procure a bunch of bits and bobs, and then you're like, I want to show this cool thing off on stream because otherwise I might not get a chance to read it. So, because there's so much of it, and I have so many cool, so much cool TTRPG content, third party stuff, like so much cool stuff, and you can't read all of it. So, and you certainly can't necessarily play all of it unless you run 5 games a week, and even then, you know, uh, but I try to share what I can. Um, in meantime, take care of yourselves, everyone. Hydrate, and I have this is the cheapo. It's rapid rehydration fluid. It was on sale for 99 cents a pop at the local supermarket. So save your work. Also, I was gonna say if you are in GOT, count your words in, but it's not tournament anymore. So we are shipping everyone off to where are we shipping everyone off to? We are rating, for sure. And if you are following, you do get the fun raid emotes. You don't even have to be subscribed; you just have to be following. So you get the little orange emotes. We rated Grizz last time. Let's see. We got Brushfire. Oh, Ramus. Oh no, Jamie. Let's raid Jamie. Yeah, let's raid Jamie. Oh. Yeah, let's raid Jamie. I haven't rated Jamie. I haven't rated anyone who's not Game of Tomes writer in the which if you don't know about Game of Tomes, by the way, we're not in the tournament anymore, but it is a lot of fun for the time. Okay, we're gonna raid Jamie, who is a painter and a ray of sunshine. She's cool. Just go and say hi, and then let's see. Oh, she's 6, so they're playing some sort of fun little cozy game, which sounds fun. Let's go say hi to Jamie. And she usually paints on stream, but right now we're doing like silly little games. So let's go raid Jamie and say hi, and I will see you guys all on Tuesday, if not before. Yes, let's go raid Jamie, and she is fun. Let's go raid Jamie. All right, peace out, everyone. Take care.